Okay, welcome. This video is going to be go over the setup for Corsair Leader. So we're going to set up the campaign, and then I'm going to stop. Largely because I need to select pilots and things of that nature. I'm going to explain the rules for setting up, but there are so many pilots to choose from. I mean, it's just an amazing stack of cards here. It's going to take me a long time to go through and pick which ones I want to use for the mission. But let's go ahead and get started. First of all, you have to pick your campaign sheet. We are picking an introductory campaign. This year is important. It's important for several reasons. When you set up the game, as I mentioned in the intro, you're going to have different tokens. So you're going to have bandit chips that are going to say 1945 on them. So right here, see how it says 45? You want to take all of the ones that say 45, okay? And then you want to make sure that you have each of these types. So it is possible that you may have to, for example, if A6M2 was not on this list, you would have to take these out, okay? But everything from 1945 is on that list. So you just put your entire 1945 group of bandits. These are called bandits and sites. You just put them in the cup, and you're going to just randomly draw from here when you're, doing missions. One important thing is this is considered a site. Okay, this is something that's on the ground, doing shooting. They're all considered soft targets. That's what that S means. And this is considered a bandit on the other side. Now you do see the word no bandit on the top. That's because if you draw one of these, you actually don't have to fight a bandit. So there's a variable number of bandits. You never know just how many are going to be on a mission. I did talk in the intro why there's a picture of a plane on here when there's actually no bandit. I don't want to duplicate things too much, but that plane is important because the plane side is the side you have to refer to figure out what year. So this 1945 is only on the plane side, it's not on the site side. So they have a picture of a plane so you can know what side to look at for figuring out which pieces to use in this mission. But this is actually a token that if you were to draw it in the game, it's actually no plane at all. So I hope that makes sense. It does to me, and it's actually pretty neat. It is a little odd at first. So you put those in a cup. Okay, the other ones, I actually took a baggie and put a label on them. So for example, these are all the 1944s, the 1943, and then way over there is the 1942. They're out of the game. You don't even use them this game. The other thing that's not in this game are the Pearl Harbor pieces. These are the ones I was talking about in the previous video. They're the special Pearl Harbor scenario, and then all the special weapons for that scenario. Okay. The other thing is I have another baggie. I figured out that, so there's a whole lot of pilot, tokens. Now, if they have a big, bold, black line along the top, they come with this expansion. See this Corsair Leader Aces expansion pack? So if you didn't buy that expansion pack, you get these with the base game, but they're meant to be used with that expansion pack. So if you don't own the expansion pack, just put them in a baggie, set them aside, you'll never use them. If you do, hire one of these aces and use it in your game, then I just made them their own separate pile. The other thing I had to do is I sorted, like I explained in the last video, all of my different planes are sorted by type. Now what that created is, you can see just in this bag alone, there's a whole bunch of tokens in here. So if I were to hire, this Pappy Boyington, to be part of my crew, I got to find the one token in here that says Boyington on it. It could be very cumbersome when you're setting up your first game, or any game for that matter. So I like to try to organize these so they're a little bit easier and smaller quantities. So when I'm trying to find so for example, that Helldiver there, see it's a very small stack of cards. I don't want to look for this particular Edwards pilot in a giant, pile of Corsair cards, right? So I'm trying to come up with a smart way to separate them. It's actually a challenge. There's so many to sort out. But here's my solution. I'm using a DVG tray here, you know, that you put tokens in, and I actually just ripped a piece of paper, and actually this is like a 5x8 card, and I just, you know, this is all the United States Corsairs. These are the United Kingdom Corsairs. These are the Devastators and the Vindicators mixed together. These are the Wildcats, the Hellcats, you know, etc. P40. I have them all separated like that. So if I decide that Hurt is going to be in my game, I can, you know, see here that he's a P40, and I can immediately just go to my P40 pile, and I know that he's one of the few pieces in that particular spot. It just speeds up the game setup. I highly recommend you do something like this. Also, when you start a campaign and you hire your pilots, you have like two choices. You can hand pick your pilots, which is what I'm going to do, or you can just randomly pick them. And if you're randomly picking them, you're going to use these to do the random selection, right? You'd put all these in a cup. Well, you can only put certain types in the cup, and I'll explain that next. So right now, this year is very important, 1945. You notice I have a whole big stack of cards here. Every one of these cards you see are plane types. So like, for example, this is P40, you know, this is the Hellcats. And if you look here, it says 1941 to 45. You want to make sure that the date of your mission or campaign falls within the range. So for example, I can have a P40 in my crew, okay? Now, I have other ones that I separated way up here, and you can see there, those are the Buffaloes. See how it says 1941, 42? I cannot use those. It's 1945 for this particular campaign. And so the Buffalo, the Dauntless, the Vindicator, and the Devastator are all out, okay? Can't use them for this campaign. But what's amazing is 90% of them you can use. And so it's going to make selecting your pilots a very daunting task. One other thing, if you do mix two pieces together like I did, I made sure they were the same year. So if I am doing a 1942 mission, I'm probably going to be using pieces from there. Since I'm doing a 1945, I can just skip over that whole thing. So anyways, I know you guys don't need instruction on this, but I thought it would be a helpful thing for those of you who are trying to organize your pieces. You're going to want to do that. Okay, so let me get this set aside and in a spot where it's not going to fall on the floor. Okay, so we have this set up. You're going to notice I did a few things. First, your recon token goes over the recon space. Okay, and then the arrows are going to point this way, and it's going to show that you're going to start the game with a 2 recon, a value of 2. Okay, we'll explain that later when the mission starts. And then your intel marker goes there, and the same deal, your intel is pointing to this no change. Okay, this marker is going to move right and left, and it's always pointing to the number to the right of it. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, your target. This just goes on here for now. Anywhere is fine. When you do a mission, let's say we're going to go after this target right here, number 7. I can do this with the little arrow pointing to the 7. It's just a nice way to remind myself which particular location my target's at. It is very important because you can see these different locations separated by these lines. Anything, you know, south of here is a 0 stress mission. This is a 1 stress band, and this is a 2 stress band. So by having this here, I can see that this particular target is in a 1 stress band. It's just, you know, a nice visual cue. You don't even need this to play the game, but it's a really nice handy thing to just have. Okay, your other pieces that look like that, you're going to want to put your turn piece on turn 1. When you actually do a mission, you're going to go through, and then there's 5 turns in a mission. If you ever get to a 6th turn, you're forced to quit. You failed. And then the flight leader token, just set it right here. That's as good as any place. You'll use that during missions. You don't use that right now. Just set it in somewhere where you can easily access it. Okay, you're going to want your stress tokens to just be, you know, off to the side. As I said in my last video, I have a whole bunch. I'm going to have way more than you. If this is the only game you've ever purchased, that's a leader game, but I combined all my leader game items. So you want your stress tokens, just set them to the side. These are your situational awareness tokens. Again, set them to the side, and then those are your damage tokens. Set them to the side. Okay. Like I said, we have a cup of the 1945 tokens. You need another cup of the gray tokens. These are the naval tokens. So make another cup of those. You're going to be randomly drawing from there. And then you're going to need some kind of small cup for these 5 tokens that you see here. Those are the special sight tokens. You need to be able to blindly, randomly draw all these. They are double-sided, so you can't just, do a shell switcheroo and then just pick one. So you're going to need a way to just not be able to see them and draw one. So you basically need 3 cups, okay? This dogfight board, you're going to want to have very handy, maybe even right next to the game, which is what I'm going to do. The other thing I recommend you have very close by is this player help sheet. You're going to want that right next to you. My apologies, I dropped something on the floor. Okay, and this is actually the next sheet we have to reference for the campaign setup. So for the campaign setup, we have to choose a short campaign, a medium campaign, or a long. So let's go back over to here, and here you can see short, medium, and long. And the difference is just how long do you want to play. A short campaign is 3 days long, whereas a long campaign is 9 days long. Obviously, this is a longer game. If you're here for the role-playing elements and like leveling up and things of that nature, the long campaign is going to give you a more rich journey, but you may not always have the time for it. Depending on which one you pick, you're going to either have these SO points or special operation points. That's basically like a currency in this game. It's how you buy things and get special favors. You'll get 50 if you do a long campaign. You'll get 20 if you're doing a short, and obviously 35 medium. Now when you're playing this game, you're going to see oftentimes these things with a slash number, 1/2/3. Okay, what that's telling you is that if you're in a short campaign, you use the left number. The medium campaign, you use the middle number. And if you're using a long campaign, you use the right number. So the cost to purchase things may change based on the length of your campaign. So that's very important. Make sure you remember that. And you can see it's used a lot throughout. These are optional rules down here, but for these rules up here, you can see, depending on the length of your campaign, you're going to be buying things at different price points. Okay, the other thing is if I'm doing a short campaign, I'm going to start with, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pilots. So I'm going to be able to pick 8 pilots from all those stacks of cards. I can pick any 8. A pilot and a plane, by the way, are interchangeable. So this hellcat plane has this pilot, okay? So if I say plane or pilot, I mean the same thing. But you're going to pick 8 pilots, and then they're going to be promoted to these skill levels. So each pilot has 3 cards. So this particular one, you can see up at the top here, it says legendary. And then over here, you'll see it says green. So for a short campaign, I get to start with 2 green pilots and 1 newbie. So maybe I want him to be my newbie. So I'd flip it over to the newbie side. That's the card we're going to start the game with. The other 2 cards we're going to use if he ever gets promoted. He could actually earn experience points and eventually become legendary. But we just put those cards underneath. And this is one of my pilots. So it's one of my 8. I would have to pick 7 more. Okay, so that's how this works. And like I said, the rules, you get to pick any one you want. So let's look this over real quick to help you with why would you pick one over the other. Just bear in mind, this is a brand new game for me, so I have no strategy advice to offer you. And if I did offer any, it's going to be based on other leader games I've played. But here's the things you want to do. You're going to always have pilots that are going to be going air-to-air combat, right? You're going to want pilots that take out other pilots. You're also going to want pilots that can bomb targets. That's true no matter what, and I'm guaranteeing you that's true in this game. In fact, I think the rules even mention it. So you're going to want a nice balance of air-to-air and air-to-ground, and you're probably going to want more air-to-ground than air-to-air At least according to other leader games, I can't say that for sure with this one. We're going to find out. Okay, so with that said, you can see that this is their air-to-air value, and that's their air-to-ground value. A negative number is bad. A positive number is good. And I believe that it goes from -3 to +3. That's the range. I don't think you're ever going to see a +4 or anything higher than a +3. Okay? And I don't think you're going to see anything lower than a -3. Now, why do you have two sets of numbers? These pilots will earn stress during missions. So what this is saying is that from 0 to 2 stress, he will use these top set of numbers. And then if he gets 3 stress, he will use the bottom set. And if he ever gets to 4 stress, then he's out of the mission. He has to rest and recover back at the base, and he can't participate in any more missions until he gets his stress down, okay? So that's one thing you want to bear in mind here. He may have, well, he's a newbie, so this is as green as it gets. In fact, he's not even green. See, there's a green side. So he's a complete newbie. So you can see that it doesn't take a lot of stress for him to freak out. And so he can actually get pulled from missions pretty quick. And I'm going to just put it side by side with a legendary to show you how this pilot will improve. And you can see here he can have 9 stress before he even becomes shaken, and then he has 17 before he has to exit the mission. So you can see how this particular pilot, as he levels up, he's going to get stronger and stronger and more capable, and basically, fearless there, because he's a scaredy cat in the beginning, and then here he is flying around commanding the skies. Okay, you're also going to want to look and plan for the promotions, because you can see that this guy, as he promotes, he never gets an air-to-ground value above 0. So you definitely don't want to hire this one for his ground combat ability. It's a hellcat, so that makes sense. These are air-to-air, historically type of planes. So, and you can see here he gets up to the +3, which is really, really good. Now, one of the things you're going to want to check is how soon does he get to that +3? How quickly does he get there? And one of the things is, here you can see this is 5 experience points. He needs 5 experience points just to get promoted to green. Okay, and then and here you can see the progression. It goes from newbie to green to average to skilled to veteran and then legendary. You never start the game with a legendary, so that's why it's not listed here. But legendary is the final promotion level. And you can see that he needs 12 experience points just to go from veteran to legendary. This guy needs a lot of experience to be able to level up. Okay, so you may never even get to legendary if you're doing a short campaign. If you start him out as a newbie, he may never earn enough experience to even get there. So those are things you need to factor in. The cool value is, remember how I said they accumulate stress? Well, at the end of the mission, yeah, they are going to get stress for whatever their target was. And this cool value is a negative modifier that's positive for you. So let's say he accumulated 2 stress on his mission. This is going to subtract 1. So, he's a cool pilot, and he only gets 1 stress on missions that give other pilots 2 stress. And here you can see he would get 2 stress because he has a 0 cool value at the newbie level. But by the time he's legendary, he has 1 cool. Okay? This situational awareness, which you could see he has a 0 of, pilots attack either fast or slow. Okay, fast means you go before the AI goes. Slow means you attack after the AI goes. So, it's a matter of who goes first. So there's going to be, 3 phases in combat. There's the fast phase, which is only you and your fast planes, if you have any. If you have none, then nobody gets to do anything. Then the AI gets to go, and then there's the slow phase. Okay, situational awareness are these special tokens that you'll see. They're these tokens here. Okay, if you have a situational awareness token, you can you start the mission with however. So here he's going to start with 0. So let's look at this guy. This guy starts the game or starts a mission with 2, and this replenishes every mission. So during the mission, he has 2 situational awareness. So what this guy could do is he can spend 1, and then, so right here you see he's a fast pilot. So he will go during the fast phase. Then the AI will go, and then during the slow phase, he doesn't take a turn, right? That's how it normally works. Well, if you spend a situational awareness, just 1 point, he will get to go in both phases. So he will go fast after the AI goes. He will then go again a second time during the slow phase. So basically you're going to get to attack twice in the same turn, or move twice, or whatever. Actually, you don't get to move. I'm sorry, that was a bad thing. You get to attack twice in the same turn. And remember, there's only 5 turns in a mission, so that makes his economy, his turn economy, really good. So he can do a lot more attacking than this guy can. Okay, so that's something else to bear in mind. And then this is gung-ho points. And all I can tell you is more gung-ho points you have, the better. Gung-ho points do 3 things. I feel like I have to look in the rulebook to remember what those 3 things are, unless it says it here, and it does not. But I know one of those 3 things is if you take damage from an enemy, you can just cancel it. You can spend a gung-ho point to cancel that damage. That is super powerful. Now, the gung-ho points don't regenerate every mission. And in fact, there's only very specific situations where you regenerate gung-ho points. So you could spend your gung-ho points on 1 mission, and then it takes 4 more missions before you actually recharge them. So these are very powerful points that you may or may not get a lot of, okay? So you can probably go an entire campaign and never recharge your gung-ho points, or you can recharge them every single mission 3 times in a row. I have not played a campaign yet, so I can't tell you my experience. I'm just explaining that from what the rules say. There are 3 powerful things it does. I only mentioned one of them because I'm forgetting the other 2, but we will get into those. It's in the rule book. Just understand that gung-ho points are pretty cool, okay? So the last thing is weight points, and that's how much weight they can carry. Weight is these blue numbers here, so that's a 1 weight point. So if you wanted to equip a rocket, you need at least 1 weight point to equip this rocket. And you can see that the Hellcat can equip rockets, napalm, drop tanks, a 250-pound bomb, and a 500-pound bomb. So you can use a Hellcat to drop bombs just like a bomber would. It's just maybe not as efficient, especially this guy, because he doesn't have good air-to-ground ability. But you get 2 weight points. So you can drop, you can carry 2 of these with you on a mission. And I know I haven't explained what these do. I would advise you, if this is your very first game, just don't worry about this yet. This is really where the analysis paralysis can get you, and it'll get me too. That's why I'm going to stop recording when I select my pilots, because I'm going to probably spend 3 hours doing this. Okay, so that's the gist of what you need for selecting a pilot. One other thing, when you're fighting against other bandits, remember, this is a bandit, the plane, and that's a site. Obviously that says no site, but if there was something here, it would have been a site. So if you're fighting against a bandit that is, a fighter, this is a 0, right? A Japanese 0. When you're fighting against zeros, in the modern games like Hornet Leader, you actually have air-to-air missiles, right? You can shoot an AIM-7 or an AIM-9. Obviously in World War II, everything was done with guns. So this gun number is, if I roll an 8 or higher, I hit. And all it takes is 1 hit to destroy a bandit. So if you're planning for air-to-air combat, you want a really low number on guns. It's not the higher number that's better, it's the lower number that's better. Now, your die roll for this gets modified by your air-to-air ability. So if you have a +3 air-to-air, you really can roll a 5 or better and hit with your guns. Because if you roll a 5, you get to add 3 to it. But here's the thing. The 0 here, see how he has a +0 there? That number that's in the top right corner gets subtracted from your number. So if this said +2, you would only get a net benefit of a +1. So even though you have a +3 here, if this guy had a +2 in the top right corner, he basically nullifies 2 of your points, and he could potentially cause you to need an even higher number. If you're over here and you're a newbie, he gets a +0. Let's say that set a +2 in the top right, you would actually have to roll a 10, a perfect 10, to be able to hit him with this newbie. Okay, but in this case, he has a +0, so in this case, he would need to roll an 8, and over here, if you rolled a 5, you can hit it. So that's a basic high-level overview of combat. There's more. There's this concept of having an advantage and tailing. If you're tailing, you get +3 on top of the +3 from here. So you could actually get +6 to your die roll if you're tailing. Now, I didn't get into all that, but there's dogfight maneuvers that you do to maneuver your plane to get into position so you can have that tailing advantage. It's a huge advantage, okay? So when you're picking your planes, there's a lot to think about. And I just wanted to give you a basic overview of how this combat works, so that way it'll help you with your selection, okay? Okay, so let's say you do that. You need to, if you're doing a long campaign, you're going to get to select 12 pilots. You have to have this distribution. 1 of your pilots gets to be a veteran, 2 is skilled, 6 is average, and that's going to take you time too, because you're going to have to think about that. My recommendation is whoever's at the bottom, make sure he can level up fast. Like, he doesn't need as many experience points to get up here. And then the ones that take forever to get up here, you maybe want to promote them early, okay? So let's say you do all of that, then it's not over. Now you get to do pilot promotions, okay? So remember, you start the game, so let's just use the long example here. Let's say you start the game with 50. So if you start the game with 1 newbie here, and you don't like it, so what you can do is, in a long campaign, you can spend 6 SO points. So that's what this chart is telling you. You can spend 6 SO points and automatically promote your newbie to a green before the first mission even starts. And you can do that. So let's say I want to go from a newbie straight to average. I don't even want to be green, right? So then I would spend 6 points to go to green, and then I would spend another 9, so 15 points total to get to average, okay? You only start with 50, so good luck promoting all your guys that way. But it is an option, and it's one you shouldn't forget. And it's part of the strategy of the game. Is you may want to not have any newbies or greens. You may want to have some more skilled fighters at the start. Okay, next is the pilot skills. Again, this 1, 2, 3 is for short, medium, and long. And the pilot skills are interesting. Every pilot in the game can have up to 2 skills. Okay, you can have 0, 1, or 2. Okay, if you buy a skill, it's going to cost 3 points for a long campaign, for example. So if you buy 2 skills, you're going to have to pay 6 SO points. And if you can give those skills to any pilot you want, or both of them to just 1 pilot. These skills range. There's a whole variety of them. That's what these tokens are for. These represent your skills. Then you would just put it, on your pilot to show that he has that skill. The thing you're going to want to help you with that is this chart here, which gives you the list of pilot skills and all of the bonuses that they give you. If you've never played a leader game before, skip the skills for now. These aren't going to make any sense to you. If there's maybe on cursory glance, I can tell you having +1 to cool was good. Okay, it's always good. +1 to your gun attack rolls, how can that be bad? There's the things that you may want to avoid are the expends, because these are once per campaign. So once you use this, it's gone, it's out of the game. So these are very situational, and you have to use them at the right time, and maybe you're not skilled enough in the game to do that. I don't want to judge how good or bad you are at the game. But anyways, you can do it, it's there, it's an option. And like I said, you can have up to 2 skills per pilot. So in a short campaign with 8 pilots, you can buy 16 skills, assuming you have the money. And, 16 skills is what? Yeah, it's way more than 20, right? So if, yeah, 32, yeah, it's 48, right? So you would have to spend 48 SO points to give everybody two skills. You only start the game with 20, so good luck. You're not going to be able to do that. These are an interesting strategy to the game. The other thing is, these skills are you buy them now or you never buy them. So let's say after the game starts, you complete 2 missions and you're like, yeah, you know what, I really want to buy this skill for so-and-so. Can't happen. This is the only time in the game you can buy skills, is right now. Okay, so bear that in mind as well. This recon and R&R you can ignore. Those are used during the game. And then the special weapons are also used during the game, but let's talk about that. Your campaign sheet will list 3 special weapons. You have rockets, Tiny Tim rockets, and napalm. Some campaigns don't allow you to use them. This is 1945, so of course they're all available. In the 1942 campaigns, you're not going to have some of these. Probably, definitely not napalm. So right now, all 3 are in the game, and so the rockets, the Tiny Tim rockets, which is just on the other side, and then I believe the third one is napalm. Okay, these are all in the game. Okay, so you wouldn't even need these tokens at all, because if none of them are in the game. The other side of napalm is the 1,000-pound bomb, which you will need to keep in the game. I think those are available. So one other rule with these is these are considered special weapons, hence the word special. You have to spend SO points to use them. And so what does that mean? It means that on a particular mission, I can equip one of my planes with this Tiny Tim rocket. That 2 there is 2 weight points. We already explained that. You would need, so for example, this hellcat can equip rockets, and the rules do say that Tiny Tim rockets are still rockets. So yes, I can equip this with a Tiny Tim rocket. I have a weight limit of 2, and there's a 2 there, so there's no problem with that. But the thing with special weapons is, since it's a special weapon, I have to actually spend 2 SO points. And these are resources that you start the game with 50 and you don't gain any more the rest of the game. I mean, you might get a few through special events, but you need to bank on the fact that, if you spend all 50 of your points, you're not getting any more. And another thing that the rules stressed is that it is possible that you lose SO points due to a special event, and if you can't afford to pay it because you've already spent all of your SO points, you immediately lose the campaign and you get the worst rating possible of dismal. And just so this is victory points, right? So if you run out of SO points and then have to spend more because of some in-game event, you are automatically disqualified from the campaign. It's an instant lose. So these special weapons are extremely expensive to get and use. So again, it's part of your strategy, and you don't have to worry about these until the missions start. So during campaign setup, just understand what, the yeses and the nos is all that's important. So you just want to know what's in and what's out. Okay, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but that's where, this is your chart for everything you're going to spend SO points for. And so obviously this one is campaign setup, that one is campaign setup, and then these 3 are during the mission. Now, there are optional rules. We're not going to cover any of those. Some of these actually make your game easier. Some of them make it harder. It's a nice, throttle that you can use. And for campaign setup, the next thing you need to do is look at all these numbers. So see how this says 3, 6, 37, 43? These are your target cards, and they are numbered from 1, 2, 3, etc. So this number 3 I know is in the campaign. See how number 3 is in the campaign, and so is number 4. So what I would do is I would take out number 3 and number 4, and of course everything else, but I'm just going to do these 2 for now. And so these are the targets for this campaign. So once I take all the targets out of this deck, the rest of these cards are out of the game. So you can just set them off to the side and they're out of the game, okay? And then you take your targets and then you shuffle those, and that's what makes your target deck for the campaign. Obviously, there's way more than 2. I just didn't want to bore you with trying to find them all. So make sure you pull all those numbers, shuffle them, and that's how you make your deck. The event deck you just shuffle and put there. Okay, am I missing anything? Just looking over here, they have a nice campaign setup. We talked about SO points. Here's where it warns you that you can lose the campaign if you're ever out of special option points. We just talked about target and event decks, how to set those up. This is where it tells you about the year printed on the bandit side of the counter. I already explained all that. Selecting your pilots, we went over that. We went over the different, and here you can purchase 2 unique skills. And yes, aircraft quality, I didn't go over that. So these Mitchells, these B-25 Mitchells, have 3 numbers with a slash. So again, short, medium, long, right? All these 3 numbers with a slash are referring to the campaign again. So in a short campaign, it says pay for. So if I want a B-25 Mitchell as one of my pilots for my short campaign, I have to pay 4 SO points just for the privilege. These are probably rare equipment, so I'm going to have to spend SO points to get the brass to let me have a B-25 in my crew, I guess is the way to put it. So getting these is going to be pricey. Now, a Helldiver or this hellcat that we've been using, you'll see there's nothing written there. That's because they're free. So you don't spend anything to get those. And then you have these Wildcats, which are, they were decent for their time, but, the Hellcat's replacing them, right? The Wildcats have gain instead of pay. So if you get one of these and put him in your lineup, you're going to gain SO points. So you actually get SO points for this. So this is a nice way to earn. Remember how I said you have 20? You would need 48 to buy 3 skills for all your pilots. One of the ways you can go over 20 is here. So in a short campaign, I can gain 2 more SO points for bringing on Showbiz Starman here. So obviously you're going to pay a penalty because this is going to be inferior to the other ones, but don't always think that way. That's the cool thing about leader games. These older technology planes can still be pretty sweet. So anyways, that's another thing. We talked about promotions, and I believe we are through setup. And then they give you an example here, and here they're showing you the distribution. They picked, various things. By taking certain aircraft, he gains SO points, and that's like the Wildcat example I just showed you. And see, he selected 2 Wildcats. He started his medium campaign with +4. So by selecting 2 Wildcats, he started his medium campaign with +8. So that's, you're getting +4 per Wildcat. I know it doesn't say that, but if you're selecting 2 Wildcats, you're getting +4 for each Wildcat. So you're going to get +8 SO points. And this is standard in every leader game. So this particular example is a little misleading. I wanted to point that out. You're not getting 4 total. You're getting 4 per Wildcat. Okay? And then, you have to record everything in the log. And they show you, example log. And I will have one of those created. I have it over there on the other end of the table. I'll fill one out, select my pilots, and then explain why I selected them. But I'm going to do all that off camera. And so when we start this campaign, mission 1, I will have all my pilots selected. Any cards representing pilots I did not select, I will move out of the way. I'll get this set up. And then, so when I start this next video, you're just going to see me with all my pilots already selected and all my SO points already spent. And I'll just step through it real quick to explain to folks what I did and why, what I'm thinking. I'm not a veteran at this game. This is my first one. So there's no, I'm not going to let myself overanalyze this. Obviously, if you've played a game several times, you're going to have a strategy. My strategy, I'm still going to have one, but it's going to be based on my previous leader games, which may not help me. So I will stop rambling there, and almost everything else you see on this help sheet is for the actual missions. When you do the, oh, I forgot one more thing. If you have the Corsair Leader Aces expansion, so if you have these expansions, you're going to see these cards are only legendary. There's not 3 cards. It's only 1 card. So you actually get 2 copies of that card. So never mind him. I'm going to just cover him up. So for example, you only have 1 Boyington and you only have 1 Hansen. Okay. There is no such thing as newbie green. They're always legendary. Okay. They're all legendary all the time. So you can start the campaign with a legendary for the low price of 10 SO points in a short campaign. Remember I said you start with 20? So if you're willing to spend half of your SO points, you can have him as one of your pilots. Now, I can tell you he's amazeballs. He gets +3 air to air. These 3 things that you see here, those are skills. So he's actually going to get the cocky skill, the fighter pilot skill, and NFOD. And remember, you can use this. So, for example, cocky, if he's the first to destroy something, he gets +1 experience. NFOD, you know, he can suffer a stress to go to neutral if he's disadvantaged or tailed. So basically, he can maneuver. And then he gets +1 to his gun rolls. So he gets all 3 of those skills for the entire campaign, and it's all part of the package. Remember, every skill costs 2 points each. So to get 3 skills like that, first of all, the game only limits you to 2 skills. So if you hire a normal pilot, you can only ever have 2 skills. This guy starts the game with 3, so he already breaks the rules. And obviously you have to pay a price for it. Now, the other thing about this is, you know, he's already legendary, and you might be thinking, okay, well, what happens if he gets experience points? In fact, this cocky one you saw gives him extra experience points. Well, what does a legendary guy need? Like, so these legendary guys, their ability is if when they gain experience points, at the end of the mission, when you're tallying up experience points, you get to give them to your other pilots that are with him on the mission. So if he goes on a mission with 2 other pilots and he gains 3 experience points, he gets to divide them up however he'd like amongst those 2 other pilots. So those other pilots will level up faster by having him with them. And of course you start the game with somebody who already has +3 air to air and goes during the fast phase. I mean, how can you complain about that? He already has a gung-ho point, 2 situational awareness. You know, he's pretty badass. There's no other word for it. Interesting strategy. It's an option. Obviously, if you don't own the expansion, well, actually, if you do not own the expansion, the base game comes with a Pappy Boyington. That's the reason why I have 2 copies. So one comes with the base game, and then one comes with the expansion pack. So if you have just a base game, I think you're going to get one of these. At least I did in the base game. So you have 1 guy that you can use if you would like to try it. Obviously, once you own the expansion pack, you have a boatload of them. And they all have different abilities and skills. It's a pretty daunting thing, in fact. But that's what these are for, and you also have to figure that out as part of your setup. Now, he uses an average, by the way. So if you buy one of those guys and you're like, okay, well, which one of these does he count as? He counts as an average, according to the rules. you can't say he's your newbie. But he will take up one of your average spots. So that means you can still have a skilled, or in this case, a veteran, in your crew. He doesn't take the best spot, he just takes one of your average spots, okay? That's 45 minutes for campaign setup. I think I covered everything. If there's any questions you have that I didn't cover, let me know. Nearly everything else will be used in the mission. For the purpose of the video, I did move to the mounted board. I really do like the neoprene mouse pad, but I just felt that, look, this text here is so much more pronounced. And for the purposes of the video, I felt that you would be able to read this easier like this. Also, as a final announcement, I actually purchased a tripod thing so I can put my camera on something mounted. So for those of you that don't like my shaky hand or me doing this all the time, that is coming. It's not here yet. I got it through Amazon, so I just have to wait for it to arrive. And I will be using that pretty darn soon. So thank you for the feedback and whatnot on, you know, what to buy and things like that. I didn't want to spend too much money because I don't get paid to do this, but I'm very excited to at least have something so I can have my other hand back. I was using an iPad to do it, so that's how I was able to have two hands in my last video, but the iPad's really large, and so it's really hard to you know, move around. Anyways, I'm rambling again, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. Thank you for watching. Stay awesome, and I'm very excited. I hope you are too, and I hope those of you that don't want to read the rules found this to be helpful. As we play, I will explain the rules, and then I will go over to here and show you where in the rule book I'm referring to. The campaign setup, we did just go through the whole thing. I didn't do it in the exact order of the rule book, but I did make sure I studied it before I started this. And when we start the first mission, we're going to be moving on to going through the sequence of play, which is the exact same thing here. And we'll go through that step by step. I will tell you, I think the only thing that's going to really slow down is the dogfights. There's so much going on. And so we're going to make sure we get it right, and it'll, you know, the first few will be slow. So anyways, thank you, and I will stop and pause and select my pilots, and I will see you on the other side. Very likely not until tomorrow. Today is October 6th, 2018. It is late at night. I am going to take a break and probably read the rule book another time, and then I will see you tomorrow. After breakfast, I have my Saturday reserved. We are playing this game. So for those of you who haven't received this game yet, I hope you know, you at least have something exciting to watch, and thank you again. So